Is there anything more dangerous if you're a Republican candidate in this primary right now than President Trump saying, I love all three of them?
Yeah. If I was the incumbent, if I was John Cornyn, I would not be happy with that answer.
What does that tell you?
That tells me that he's not sure Cornyn can win. And the White House has said, publicly and privately, they want to see if Cornyn can win. The Democrats, Joe, are desperate to have Ken Paxton come out of that primary. He would be the much easier candidate in the general election. But the fact that we're talking about Texas, a state where Democrats haven't won a statewide election since 1994, my senior year in college. I'm now an AARP member, Joe. So this is amazing that we're talking about Texas being in play.
Well, and to your point, Jim, there have been times, including in the last cycle with Senator Ted Cruz's seat, that we've questioned whether or not Texas actually could flip blue, and it hasn't happened. So what realistically would make this time different? Is this literally just a candidate quality question?
I think two things, Kailey. I think, first of all, it's a candidate quality question, who the Republican is, who the Democrat is. The second is Donald Trump's numbers. Donald Trump's numbers are really bad in Texas, and if they continue to fall as they're falling all around the country, that could really help in swing voters. As you said, Beto O'Rourke came 2 points away from beating Cruz. Cruz had a tough election last time. Democrats have been talking about Texas going blue forever. It hasn't yet, but the question is if they can come out of this race with Paxton and a good Democratic nominee, this thing's in play.
Do you believe the conventional wisdom on the Democratic side? This is an uphill primary for Mr. Talarico, but he stands a better chance of beating a John Cornyn if that, in fact, is the general election matchup?
Well, I'll leave it to the Democrats to decide who their nominee is. But I will tell you that I spent some time with Talarico recently, and I was stunned by how impressive he was. He had control of a room that reminded me of Bill Clinton. He's able to talk about faith in a really unique way. I've not spent any time with Congresswoman Crockett because she got in the race so late. But I think they both go to sleep hoping they're going to win the primary and that Ken Paxton wins the primary on the Republican side.
Well, so when we consider both James Talarico and Jasmine Crockett and what messages Democrats across the board will be trying to run on in the midterms as they try to get any kind of power they can back in Washington, Jim, knowing President Trump is going to be resuming his affordability tour this week, heading to Georgia on Thursday. Is it the affordability issue in states like Texas as well? Is this going to be a state-by-state conversation, or is all politics actually really national still?
It's really national still, Kailey. This is an affordability election. Donald Trump's underwater by 28 points on affordability. Some of that's not his fault. He's just the president of the United States during these tough times. But voters are blaming his party. And when you look at the successful candidates that we had in November in New Jersey and Virginia governor's races, they just lived in the affordability lane. And Democrats win elections when they're in the middle on economic issues. And so I think you're just going to see the Democrats say the word affordability so many times it makes independent analysts like you guys want to throw up. But it is true that that's the only issue that matters for Democrats right now.
I want to ask you about the fallout from Munich. Jim, you're seeing the same reports that we are, to the point where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez picked up the phone and called the New York Times to try to redirect their reporting. It was herself, the congresswoman from New York, as well as Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, who were part of a panel asked about foreign policy by Bloomberg's own Francine Lacroix, and they didn't exactly come up with news-making answers. Let's give our audience a taste. This is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I think that the United States is very much in a compromised position compared to where we were 5 years ago. Our relationships with our allies are strained, and our domestic situation, I think, is reflecting globally as well, particularly economically. Skyrocketing inflation, tariffs, of course, have hurt Americans, and it has hurt and had a negative impact on the United States globally as well.
When she was asked about whether the U.S. should defend Taiwan, there wasn't exactly a direct answer. Whitmer had her own issues here when asked about the same thing. Jim, are we looking at the early lineup for 2028? Is that, in fact, why they went to Munich? And how should we interpret their performance?
Well, look, I would say a couple things. The first is that, every senator, governor, and most members of Congress go to sleep at night and wake up in the morning and look at the mirror and see the next president of the United States. I've already met 25 people, Joe, who tell me they're running for president as a Democrat in 2028. They're all starting to get out there. It's healthy for the party. I don't think we need a spokesperson in a midterm election. I think Donald Trump is the person we ought to be running against. And I think all those people, like Gretchen Whitmer, like AOC, other people, should get out there and start road testing ideas and start talking about it. And, they'll stumble, they'll have good moments, they'll have bad moments. I remember Barack Obama going through those same things. But the fact is we all ought to get out there and start to build a message that can win a broad coalition in the presidential.
Maybe a message on alien life, Jim. You knew I had to ask you about this, right? Barack Obama, former President Obama, asked about this in a podcast interview over the weekend, whether he believes or can tell us and confirm that alien life is real. Here's what he said.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51.
Area 51.
Jim Messina, did he talk to you about this? And do you know where they are being held?
So, Joe, this is a great story. So I was his deputy chief of staff on the first day he was in office. And afterwards, we came back and I'm like, hey, are you going to get to learn whether they're aliens? And he laughed. And we were in the middle of the economic crisis. He's like, Messina, I got a little bigger things to worry about. And I'm like, no, but you got to ask. And so it was a very funny moment on the first day that Barack Obama became president of the United States.
I can't get a straight answer out of anybody around here.
Yeah, that wasn't a no.
Oh, sorry.
Where are
There's
they?
no
We're
aliens,
going to have to.
There's no aliens. Don't worry.
None whatsoever. All right.